see there's a truck there with all the costumes and things. So I pulled them in, you know, and then when we have to go on location, we just bring those trailers with us. We don't have to worry about setting up additional dressing room space. We're just quickly passing Soundstage 29. This is where they filmed the late night party, Lopez Tonight, starring comedian George Lopez. It's also where we filmed the 8 seasons of The West Wing. We're going to come back and talk about the front lot more in a little bit. I just want to take you folks up into kind of another residential town. We call this kind of an any-town USA. This has been East Coast, West Coast, and everywhere in between. But the street that we're turning onto is called Kings Row. And this was built for a movie called Kings Row. Now the first house on our right-hand side, this is where Ronald Reagan's character from Kings Row lived. Also the movie musical, The Music Man, where Robert Preston's character stayed. The brick house was used on the Waltons, where the Baldwin sisters, used to live. And they're in the process of kind of removing a lot of the set dressing. So, you know, they're wheeling away the plants in the boxes. You can see kind of where some of the plants have kind of been pulled up out of the ground. But we're going to get the chance to go inside some of these houses so we can kind of see what they look like on the inside. For the beige house on your left, for Friends, that was Phoebe's dad's house, right? Phoebe tried to meet her dad for the first time, and she went upstairs, but he wasn't home. She met her brother, played by Giovanni Ribisi. Well, we're going to go inside this blue house here so you guys can see what it looks like on the inside. So please just watch your steps, and we'll all go inside together. For those houses, but we tend to use these houses for, let's say, like a crime drama, right? Every week there's a new victim, a new suspect who needs to be interviewed. Very easily you can set up a little living room space, you know, question the person, who are you, where were you, who were you with, and all that stuff. And then the house, when we did the show Dukes of Hazzard, this was Uncle Jesse's house, and in the film East of Eden,
aqui foi gravado os mercenários. Sacanagem.
We're going to go into the gray house next door so you can see how it's different from this house. Just be careful because there are some cords and things on the ground.
Olha lá o celeiro, garagem. Bom que a gente tá entendendo tudo.
Gente, só para reforçar, nós estamos filmando os estúdios da Warnerbros em Los Angeles.
Monday? Yeah, she would have already filmed, for tomorrow, yeah, then David Beckham was on today, yeah. This is still a drive-through car, it has the reverse opening suicide style door. We've also got an Agent Smith puppet. In the third Matrix movie, there was a fight scene.
Gente, é o carro do Batman. A Kombi do Scooby-Doo.
Estageta.
Eu tô vendo.
Você tá filmando?
Tô. Eu filmei. Cara, isso é incrível.
Yeah, the light is a bit too. I think it will adjust. Thank you so much.
Alan, tirar uma foto aqui no carro e a moto do Batman. Gente, esse daqui é o cenário do Friends.
Stage 24. This was part of the sets. On the other side of the wall would have been Monica's apartment, then the hallway, and then Joey's apartment, right? All in a line. Now, what happened is, when the show ended, we couldn't keep them up anymore. We're going to use the stage for something new. So, we did, we had to take everything down. Well, we got a phone call from Jay Leno, the talk show host. He wanted to interview the cast inside the Central Perk set, okay? So just make sure you're not videoing, okay? No video, just regular still. You know, the group as much as possible. Now, the Warner Brothers themselves, they work for real brothers who started their company back in 1923. And in 1927, they released the very first talking picture called The Jazz Singer, starring Al Jolson. And with the success of that film, that's what allowed them to purchase this studio back in 1928. This was originally a silent picture company called First National Pictures. And their big star was Charlie Chaplin. So there's a lot of history out here, but we've been here for over 80 years. Thank you. Now we're going to split our time today between the two areas of the studio here. Well, we have the back lots, which are exterior sets that look like city streets, residential neighborhoods. And then we're also going to spend time on the front lot, which is where the stages are, where we're filming the show. We're going to head into one of our back lot sets here off on our right-hand side. Now, we never filmed all of the work. A little bit at the front or a little bit of the side, but never all four sides all together. So as we head into the first area, this is an area we call Park Place. It's a generic kind of set right now. And what you're looking at is kind of an undressed set, okay? No street signs, no lampposts, no garbage bins, no newspaper bins, no address numbers, no doorknobs, because all those things tell us details about where we are, right? It's, what town is it? Is it Chicago, New York, Public Enemy, Little Caesar? You can go ahead, Aaron.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
Sorry guys.
Excellent. But we call this Hennessy Street because Dale Hennessy was the production designer of a movie musical we did back in 1981 called Annie. With Carol Burnett, excuse me. So this was New York for Annie, and we'll drive by in a second, but the yellow brick building was the orphanage for that film. This was also used in the movie, and of course Friends, okay? Friends never filmed in the real New York City. It filmed everything here in Burbank. The only time Friends ever left was to go to London for the episodes where Ross married his girlfriend Emily. Otherwise, we filmed every episode of Friends here in Burbank, California, which is pretty cool. One of my favorite episodes was the one where Monica and Rachel were arguing over who got to ask out Jean-Claude Van Damme. They were standing in this little archway here on our left-hand side, and they were poking their heads out, like, you ask him, no, you go ask him for me, and they were like fighting with each other right there. And they're just around the corner. This is where Jean-Claude Van Damme was. And then also Julia Roberts shows up in that same episode a little bit later. She played Susie Underpants, right? That was her nickname in the show.
Foi alguma coisa de Jean-Claude Van Damme.
But this was also New York for the very first 3D film we did called House of Wax, starring Vincent Price. This was the wax museum that burns down in the beginning of the film. This is also China rules and restrictions that go along. We have to get permits that allow us to film in those places. So if we can film something here, definitely want to take that opportunity. It's just easier, faster, and of course cheaper, right? And it kind of all comes down to what everything is going to cost. But one of the buildings that we use for filming all the time is along your right-hand side. This long brown building, very easily you could dress this up to look like a motel, or maybe an apartment building, or a school dorm, right? Just by putting the right sign out front. And we do that all the time. But inside, it's just offices. People like Aaron Sorkin, he's the creator of shows like West Wing. He wrote that new movie, The Social Network, about Facebook that just came out. His offices are right inside that building. Now on our left-hand side, we're passing 3 beige buildings here. These are our television buildings. If you were going to get cast in a show, maybe you're a writer on one of the shows, you're a producer of the show, you're a production assistant, you're probably working out of one of these beige buildings. But very easily, again, dress it up like a school, Washington High School, get teenagers walking around with book bags and bicycles. It could be a school, which we do quite a bit. We did it for a show we did for Fox called Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Now coming up on your right-hand side is a cafe here. This is one of 7 restaurants here on the property, which is pretty amazing. But we'll film here if we ever need a cafe scene. Very easily, we dress the tables up here and we can film. We do that quite a bit for our show Gilmore Girls. Now as we drive around today, we will see a lot of golf carts and a lot of bicycles, okay? And that's because all the parking spaces are assigned. So it's really hard to move your car from one place to another because there's not going to be anywhere for you to park. It's a lot easier to park your car in your parking spot and then jump on to your 2.5 men bicycle or your 2.5 men golf cart, ride yourself over to the stage and get your work done there. And the bikes are a tradition that have been around for years. Back when Jack Warner was running the lot, he invested in like a whole fleet of Schwinn bicycles to give out to everybody on the lot. So there's all these old pictures of Humphrey Bogart in a 3-piece suit riding his bike around the lot. Nowadays, I see Simon Baker, the star of The Mentalist. we're gonna head over to our jungle, but before we go inside, just wanted to point out this big wagon on our right-hand side. We call that a bush wagon, okay? It's a very technical term, right? No, just kidding. Basically, the bush wagon, you just wheel that in front of something you don't want the camera to see, right? So we would just move that in front of the street here or prevent us from seeing the buildings over here. It's just an easy way to do that. But we're gonna actually go inside the jungle itself. But also on the right here, you'll see that some of the taller plants are still in the buckets or they're wooden planters, and we keep them in there and we just kind of stuff these tree trimmings at the bottom because if you don't want to, you know, basically you're filming in here for just one day. You don't want to dig a hole, plant a tree, and then come back tomorrow and have to rip that out of the ground, right? So you just keep them in their boxes, in their buckets. It's a lot easier to move them around. But this jungle set was built back in 1956 for a film called Santiago, starring Alan Ladd. But we've used it in hundreds of productions since then. One of the ones we use it for very recently is one of our HBO shows, a show called True Blood, starring Anna Paquin and Stephen Moyer. It's a vampire show. And so we use both the barn and the cabin as the exterior of Merlotte's Bar and Grill. This is where Anna Paquin's character works as a waitress on the show. So when we film those scenes, we put a big sign on the building, we park cars out here, we try to make it look like it's a real restaurant. The thing is, even though you can go inside, it's not big enough for what the inside of the restaurant requires for True Blood. So they split their time. The houses out here, they just gave them different exteriors so that they would look different from each other on camera. Also, the street is built on a curve because through a camera's lens, it makes the street look longer than it really is. Now, what's great about these houses is that they're also offices, okay? So we can have people working on the inside and be filming something on the outside, which is really nice. So, let's see, you know, more production offices, right? Writers and production assistants are inside. But you've also got filming for like 2.5 Men. We did an episode where Charlie and his mom wore matching jogging suits and they jogged down the street together. We also did an episode of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon was riding on the back of Howard's moped. The White House at the Red Door is the Chuck production office, but I also think it's the most festive in its Halloween decorations there. But we've used, you know, so we can be working on the inside but still filming something on the outside. Now we're going to drive underneath an administrative building here coming up, and we call the building the Bridge Building because it has a big bridge walkway that connects the two halves. But we use this building for filming all the time because very easily you can put a sign out front and make it seem like this is a company, this is a school, this is a movie theater, this is an airport terminal, this is a hospital, you know, so you can just get people walking around with doctors' uniforms and pushing people in wheelchairs. You could make it a hotel by having people walk around with luggage. You could make it an airport terminal by adding, you know, flight attendants and pilots walking around. So it's just, you know, the audience tends to believe what you show them because we're so busy focused on the dialogue and the story that we don't always notice what's going on in the background, which allows us to use the same buildings over and over and over again. I know, right? It's great. Yes, please. I think it depends, yes. I mean, sometimes the sets are very drastic, but if we had screen captures of like 5 different movies that filmed on the same corner, we would be able to see the similarities, absolutely. Now, right now, we are just passing a parking structure, which, you know, we'll film car chase scenes in there, we'll land a helicopter on the roof, but the best part is that the first floor here is also our costume department.
André e Alain em mais uma aventura global, pela segunda vez em Los Angeles, aqui na Calçada da Fama, em Hollywood, pegando esse momento especial que é a montagem para o grande show que vai acontecer logo mais à noite aqui na Calçada da Fama, que é a estreia do filme Guardiões da Galáxia. Vou mostrar um pouquinho para vocês agora aqui desse evento. Aqui está o Alan, que está quase chorando, emocionado. Ontem, à noite, nós também pegamos uma pré-estreia de um filme com duas atrizes famosíssimas de Hollywood. Aqui é o pessoal já, ó, se preparando para passar o dia todo aqui para poder ver o preparatório, ó. Ver os atores, todos vão desfilar por aqui logo mais.
Vem comigo. Guardião da Galáxia, volume 2.
Ah, sorry. A festa vai ser aqui no Dolby Theater, onde ocorre a festa do Oscar. É uma pena que a gente não vai poder ficar aqui até a noite para poder vir curtir essa festa na Calçada da Fama, Los Angeles, Califórnia, porque estamos a caminho da nossa continuação da aventura pela Pacific Highway em direção a São Francisco. E aqui termina mais essa aventura de Andrea e Alan na Calçada da Fama, Hollywood, em frente ao teatro onde ocorre o Oscar. Nós vamos encerrando essa filmagem e logo depois o teatro chinês. E aqui o teatro chinês, gente, que hoje só vai dar para vocês verem isso porque tá cheio de caminhões aqui, tá uma loucura. Mas até a próxima aventura.
Catherine! Catherine! Is the limo is right there? She don't come right here. Oh, she's coming! Catherine! Catherine! Right here! Please! Oh. Para del Toro. She's Cara del Toro. Yeah, Catherine. She's right there. Catherine! Is the limo is right there? She don't come in right here. Oh, she's coming. Catherine! Catherine! Right here! Please! Oh. Cara del Toro. She's Cara del Toro.